football team has 11 players on the field, and somehow, almost none of them are doing the same job. If you've ever watched a match and had no idea why one guy just stands near the goal the entire game, while another sprints up and down the sideline nonstop, this video is going to fix that completely. By the end, you'll understand exactly what every single position on a football field actually does, why each one exists, and how they all fit together like pieces of one coordinated machine. Basics before we start. Football is played on a rectangular field with one goal at each end. Each team fields 11 players at a time, and every single one of those players is assigned a specific role based roughly on where they line up on the field. Think of a football team almost like a company organizational chart. Some roles focus entirely on defense, some focus entirely on attack, and some sit right in the middle, connecting the two. Let's break it down section by section, starting from the very back. First up, the goalkeeper. This is the only player on the entire field allowed to use their hands, but only inside a specific marked box in front of their own goal. Their main job is obvious: stop the ball from crossing the goal line. But modern goalkeepers do a lot more than just block shots. They also organize the defense in front of them, shouting instructions since they have the clearest view of the entire field, and increasingly, they're expected to pass the ball accurately with their feet too, almost like an extra defender. Here's a stat that surprises people. Elite goalkeepers today sometimes complete more passes in a match than actual midfielders, a responsibility that didn't even exist for this position a few decades ago. Next, we move to the center backs, usually two players stationed directly in front of the goalkeeper. Their job is to stop opposing attackers from getting close enough to shoot in the first place. Think of them like the offensive line in American football, except instead of protecting a quarterback, they're protecting their own goal. Center backs need to be strong in the air, meaning good at winning headers, since a huge number of goals come from crosses and corner kicks sent into the box. They also need excellent positioning, constantly reading where the danger is likely to come from next. Either side of the center backs, you'll find the fullbacks, sometimes called outside backs. These players patrol the wide areas of the field, defending against opposing wingers. But here's the twist that trips up a lot of new fans. Modern fullbacks aren't purely defensive anymore. They're expected to sprint forward constantly to support attacks too, delivering crosses into the box from wide areas. Imagine a football cornerback who's also expected to run receiver routes on offense. That's essentially what a modern fullback does, defending one moment, attacking the next, covering enormous amounts of ground for 90 straight minutes. There's actually an evolved version of this role called a wingback, used in certain tactical formations. Wingbacks push even further forward than regular fullbacks, functioning almost like a hybrid between a defender and a winger. It's an extremely demanding position physically, since these players are essentially running the entire length of the field over and over throughout the match. Now let's move into midfield, arguably the most varied and complicated area on the entire field. This is where you'll find the biggest range of different roles, so let's go through them one at a time. First, the defensive midfielder, sometimes nicknamed the destroyer, the holding midfielder. Picture this player as a security guard stationed right in front of the defense. Their main job is to break up opposing attacks before they even reach the center backs, either by winning the ball back through tackles or simply by standing in the right passing lanes to block progress. A great defensive midfielder often does their best work in ways that don't show up on a highlight reel: quiet interceptions and simple, safe passes that keep their team organized. Next, the central midfielder, often considered the engine room of the entire team. These players do a bit of everything, defending when needed, attacking when possible, and constantly linking the defense to the attack by moving the ball forward. If defensive midfielders are security guards, central midfielders are more like project managers, constantly running between departments, making sure everything connects smoothly. Then there's the attacking midfielder, sometimes called a number 10, a nickname based on the jersey number many legendary players in this position have worn throughout football history. This player operates just behind the strikers, focused specifically on creating scoring chances, threading clever passes through tight defensive gaps that most other players wouldn't even attempt. Think of this role like a basketball point guard whose entire job is setting up the perfect assist rather than scoring themselves, though many attacking midfielders score plenty of goals too. Moving wider, we've got wingers, players stationed out near the sidelines in more attacking areas of the field. Wingers use speed and dribbling ability to get past defenders, then either cut inside to shoot or send crosses into the box for teammates. Here's an interesting shift in modern football. Traditionally, wingers stayed wide the entire game. Today, many top teams use what's called an inverted winger, meaning a right-footed player lining up on the left side, or vice versa, specifically so they can cut inside onto their stronger foot and shoot directly at goal, rather than just crossing the ball every time. Finally, we reach the strikers, the players whose primary job is scoring goals. Within this role, there are actually a few different subtypes worth knowing. A target man is typically taller and physically dominant, excellent at winning aerial battles and holding the ball up with their back to goal, while teammates catch up to support the attack. Poacher is a different kind of striker entirely, someone who doesn't do much work outside the penalty box, but has an almost supernatural instinct for finding the exact right position to tap in a goal at the perfect moment. Then there's a more unusual variation called the false nine, a tactical trick where a player lines up like a traditional striker but constantly drops deep into midfield instead of staying near the goal. This confuses defenders completely because a center back's entire job is marking the striker directly in front of them. If that striker keeps disappearing into midfield, the defender faces an impossible choice. Follow them out of position and open up dangerous space behind. Stay put and let them operate freely in space. Neither option is good for the defense. Here's the observation that ties this whole video together. None of these positions exist in isolation. A defensive midfielder is only effective if the center backs behind him are positioned correctly. A winger's speed only matters if a fullback is overlapping to support him at the right moment. Football isn't really 11 individual jobs happening at the same time. It's one connected system where every single position depends directly on the players around it doing their job correctly too. Here's a fascinating fact that shows just how much these roles can shift depending on tactics. The exact same player can be used completely differently by two different coaches. A player capable of playing as a winger might get deployed as a wingback in one system, or even as an attacking midfielder in another, depending entirely on what shape and strategy the coach wants to build around them. Position isn't just about where you stand. It's about what job the coach needs you to do within that specific game plan. Quick recap before we wrap up. Goalkeepers stop shots and increasingly help build attacks with their feet. Center backs and fullbacks form the defensive foundation, with fullbacks doubling as attacking outlets in the modern game. Midfielders range from defensive destroyers to creative playmakers, connecting every part of the field together. And strikers come in different flavors entirely, from physical target men to clever false nines, all sharing one ultimate job, putting the ball in the net. Here's the final thought worth remembering. Football might look like 11 players randomly chasing a ball around a field if you've never learned the system underneath it. Once you understand what each position is actually responsible for, you start seeing an entirely different sport, one built on structure, teamwork, and constant tactical decision-making happening in real time, all across 90 minutes. If breakdowns like this make football finally click for you, subscribe, because this channel turns the biggest concepts in the sport into something anyone can actually understand.